Hello. Cool. I think you can hear me well. Thanks for joining today's session where we talk about continuous RPA quality. It's the last day. It's after lunch, so I'm happy that we have quite some audience here. My name is Thomas Stocker. I'm part of the product team here at UiPath. But even more important, of course, today are our friends from Oxys and VMware. They are sharing the story how they are building resilient automation, helping them to scale faster. Before that, let me just quickly share with you a few ideas on RPA testing, what we thought about when building the product, and what is probably next for us. Those are the four pillars of the UiPath Test Suite. And as mentioned today, we of course want to share on the first one, which is to ensure RPA quality. You've heard it probably several times, you probably experienced it. RPA is pretty matured over the last few years, and it kind of shifted from just being a tool to a way of operating, so it became business critical for you. It covers business critical processes, and therefore, when it fails, of course, it leads probably to issues. And that's what we want to address with RPA quality. What we did is we did a survey, we conducted a survey among our customers, and we asked them, so what is breaking your automation? And it's not a big surprise. The main reason for automation to break is change. It's application change, meaning your application that you're automating on has introduced new fields, has new identifiers, or environment change, meaning IT rolled out a new patch, a new browser version, stuff like that, and that can break your automation. So with that in mind, that means when you want to scale RPA on enterprise level, you have to solve that equation. You have to solve those automation issues, you have to solve the application changes and the environment changes to be able to scale. Now the problem with that is most of them are uncontrollable for you. If you're part of a COE, you will not be able to control those changes. They are introduced by IT, and most of the time it's probably takes you by surprise. Your bots break and you don't know why. So what is the way to solve that? We think the only way to solve that is continuous monitoring and continuous testing of your RPA workflows in order to not catch those issues when they appear in production, but catch them earlier, before they appear. And what we did in the last few years on that, on product side, is we tried to equip the RPA developers with certain tools and functionalities to make sure that the quality of your RPAs is up to your standards. We introduced features like the activity coverage, so you can measure the test coverage for your RPA automation. We came up with an automatic code review, CI/CD integration. You can mock your workflows. Meanwhile, with 22.10, you've probably seen it in Param session, we also have a performance profiler, so you can profile the performance of your automation to spot bottlenecks up front. And the other new feature we introduced, also shown by Param, is the automatic RPA test creation. So we know, we talked to a lot of customers, and the feedback we got very frequently was, well, testing is required, we know that, but it's a lot of work to do. So with that feature, we try to help you to get started with RPA testing, so you have the capability to automatically generate them. That's pretty much all from my side, and now comes the exciting part. Let me hand over to our colleagues, Julio and Eduardo.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'm Julio Viquez. I'm the Senior Manager of the Intelligence Automation COE at VMware. So first of all, I'm going to give you a little background about our COE. It was established in 2017, and so far until last week, these are some of the numbers that we have able to achieve. More than 420 process automated so far, plus close to 700 process enhancements, which include change requests and bug fixes in our deployments. We currently are working or engaged with more than 45 functions in the business, all of them internal customers. And then also we have deployed plus 160 plus bot license. So you can see if you do the math, basically we have about 2.5 RPA solutions per license that we have deployed across those 45 business functions. As well, close to the 900,000 K saving hours, and more than 105 ideas in the pipeline that we're currently working. And these numbers are important because, as we were discussing, for test automation, definitely the numbers matter, as well as the maturity of the COE. So we just briefly just saw, basically, when we start a COE, normally when we go through the automation honeymoon, which is basically when you started the automation, most of your the resources are dedicated to create new automation, right? So you start creating new automations, and pretty much the developers and your testings are able to basically have a dedicated focus into those activities. But very quickly, as your COE grow and scale up, that well, you start to facing challenges. And then in blue, you can see that basically expectation from business normally is that, once you establish the COE, the goal is the automation will increase and increase in benefits. It's going to constantly keep going. Unfortunately, what you see after you passed out that automation honeymoon, as they call it, is that application changes and other situations start to affect your productivity, right? So now you have to start deviating your attention from not only creating automations, so you need also to start fixing things, working on change requests. Business normally do changes to the business processes, so you need to update your existing automations. So that's start to take time. That start taking time from your development teams to, again, working on fixing things and also improving the existing situation. So what you experience is, after that automation honeymoon, you will start to experience a gap between what the business is expecting your COE to deliver versus what you are actually being able to create. We probably saw on the slide from the survey from UiPath, basically, normally 42% of the application changes is the number one issue that we have. Then we have environmental issues. In our case, in VMware, since we are also a software company, it's up to 60% of the application changes that is basically impacting us, basically for driving those numbers increase. And basically, even though we have done a lot of efforts to get engaged with IT, so we can get proactive in knowing when those changes are going to be happening or when they are going to be implemented in production, most of the times we found it when they are released. Like when the automation is supposed to be running and suddenly everything is wrong or is not producing the desired outcome. So that's put a lot of pressure into the business teams. As well, basically, when we started all these initiatives, basically the objectives were, as we just said, basically trying to get from the reactive to the proactive maintenance, trying to understand before things are breaking that we can, try to fix them. As well, improving the automation uptime, definitely ensuring that our customers and our internal customer have a better customer experience. Then also improving quality, definitely a key important factor is, like, as you grow and scale your COE, quality matters the most because that gives you a confidence in your COE. And normally businesses at the beginning just give you little tasks to automate. If you are able to gain your trust and to gain the confidence, then they will start to give you more and more complex or more end-to-end process for automation. If you don't get to that quality level and then you fail to fulfill that trust, then that's when your COEs start to struggle to grow up, because again, they just keep giving you like a small task to automate and not end-to-end processes. And lastly, even though it was like a secondary objective, we wanted to increase the speed and increase confidence again into what we were doing, especially in the speed area. As quicker that we can get, the deployment of the solutions, the better for the business. And again, it also increased the trust and the confidence from the COE. This is normally just the change or the aspect that impact your from a business perspective, but there is also a big component that basically we wanted to reinforce, which is the human component. What are those things that definitely impact your COE from a human component? Is like, as you can see also from this survey, up to 70% the developers have confirmed that they either don't like or don't do performance code review. Normally, they enjoy a lot building new solutions, working on new things, engaging with new partners. But at the time of performing the code reviews, that's not really something they wanted to spend their time on doing. Then also, if you see bottoms up, test RPA solutions. That's also more than 60%. That's not a fun activity to perform when you are a developer. Like, just dedicate time to go through these several test cases, running one by one, manually sometimes, filling spreadsheets. And then also more than 60% the maintenance part, the support and the debug of the RPA solutions, like especially when they fail in production at the moment of the execution. What that happens is, or what that creates, again, a lot of repetitive work, which again, what is meant for UiPath to resolve. Then also the undervalued responsibility. Again, everybody wants to work on the new stuff and in the stuff that is going to give you visibility. But most important, the stressful environment. At the end of the day, if you are working in test, normally if things break in production, what that was going to create is, again, a stressful environment, because then your manager is going to get stressed. The leadership team is going to get stressed, because if they are not getting the right output from the automation or the timely output of the automation, that just put pressure in business, right? They just want it to be as accurate as possible, the solutions. So definitely this is the other aspect of the RPA solution that we wanted to address at that moment, is like we have the business component trying to get as proactive as possible in order to gain trust, and then also help our developers, our designers, our testing teams really to focus into the most important stuff and the things that they enjoy, so that help us to increase retention and increase motivation with the team. So let me now pass this to our colleagues from Oxys that help us address this situation. So they will explain a little bit further how we were able to address some of these challenges. Eduardo?
Thanks, Julio. I think the size and the scale of what you guys have done is amazing. And I think getting at this scale is when this really starts to become a really important factor that everybody should be thinking about. This human component is critical. Working under stress and being called upon, hey, this broke, you got to stay overnight, this needs to get fixed before we come back in the morning. Nobody wants to have that job. And as much as we can with this technology, we can actually try to overcome this problem and make it a better environment for our team members, because it is an incredibly undervalued responsibility, as you guys know. So looking at how we try to approach this, so one of the key things that we try to build, this test automation tries to tackle one side of it, but then how do we make sure that we control quality and speed was the other side of the project. So we broke it down in two places. First, we started with test automation. In this specific, section of the project, we really wanted to focus on trying to test as much as we could reusable components, identify which projects were using them, and try to be extremely proactive to get the results faster. Then we looked at end-to-end testing for key automations, the ones that are constantly running, the ones that are providing significant value to the organization, and the ones that we can continuously test in lower environments to make sure that if there is something coming, that we can tackle it on really quickly. And, with the lower environment piece is a key thing that he was mentioning. Sometimes a lot of organizations have access and are part of the development lifecycle of solutions within your organizations, but in most cases, that is not the case. You're basically, the IT team is building new, releases, they're putting them into production, and, wake up in the morning and the automation doesn't work anymore, and it becomes this mayhem. So you want to make sure that you are aligning with your IT teams and making sure that you have accesses to refreshed lower environments that you can continuously test your automations as we try to get this to really provide a lot of value. So in this process, we're really trying to get to awareness. When are changes happening? How can we be faster? The best thing that you can do as a COE is call your business partner and say, something broke, we are on top of it. It's going to get fixed in the next 4 hours, instead of the other way, which is my automation didn't work. I didn't get my report. This isn't working. I'm getting a lot of issues, and you are the last to know. As much as you can, you want to try to avoid that. So then we embarked on the more complex side of the project, which is building a full CI/CD pipeline. For this, we use GitLab and Jenkins and UiPath to really be able to automate a lot of the additional manual work that needs to be done in order to really get to a fully deployed automated environment, right? In this case, we wanted to make sure that we had automatic code reviews that, they're being done manually, and you don't know actually if they were being done. It's almost like a promise of your QA team that they're doing it. In this way, we can have digital confirmation that it was happening. After that, we want to make sure that for the ones that we were building test automation, that the workflow on the CI/CD pipeline would actually go through the test cases and get a result for that. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we could easily choose if we wanted to deploy on their cloud environment, on their on-premise environment, and be able to move wherever we wanted to go when it came down to actually deploying the automations. And most importantly, today, before this project was done, whenever new code was built, there's this whole process around building the environments, moving the assets, creating the queues, making sure, and you do this in every single stage. So now with this new model, you can actually very easily just commit the code and it automatically manages your change management, which is something that really gets to the speed and quality of what they wanted to achieve. So because we wanted to also bring a little perspective that you can take on not just high-level conversations, we wanted to say, how was this pipeline designed? What does it do? What does it doesn't do? How does it work with the different environments and at least at a high level so you guys can understand. So the first step is making sure that you have the right framework with the developers of them identifying which automations have to be tested, which ones you don't have to test. There are some that there is additional effort that needs to be done in order to test automation. So it's important that you guys are identifying which ones have a need, which ones don't have a need. And the pipeline, you can choose, it's optional, the testing piece of it. But for the ones that are, then you can basically need to make sure that you have the right, at least framework with your developers to understand which ones require and which ones don't. The next piece is what was being done manually, which is the code review. So the pipeline now, once the code is committed, immediately Jenkins is getting the code, doing a code review, getting to a check of quality, and right then and there, there's a stop. If for any reason the code is not doesn't pass, then a workflow tool gets it back to the developer and says, all these changes need to be made. Here's all the defects that we found. It's not going to go further than this. If it does, then with the UiPath robots, we're now creating all the packages and uploading to the different stages and basically doing the actual testing if there is a testing need or if there's a test scenario that is being built. And finally, if the test is correct, if the code review happened, if everything is okay in stages, then there's a final step for the QA team. So in their environment, which I think is the best practice for everybody, support should not just work as support. They should work as QA. They should work as anything that is going to be in production, they need to know about and they need to approve before it happens. So then the team stops. It's checks and balances like anywhere else in any other company. That structure usually does not exist in most COEs, and it's something that I believe is the best practice that VMware is using. And they've added it to the pipeline so that they are the ones who are approving that everything went well and they're ready to support this code. And then once they say yes, then they decide where is it going to be deployed, and immediately the pipeline is triggered and there's no manual interaction and it's put into production. If you're thinking about new code, a little bit more complex. But if you're thinking about things that happen every single day and defects that may come up, sometimes, how many times have we done a fix to fix something that breaks something? And this is a way for you to really confidently move new code, new versions of existing automations into production, being tested automatically with great confidence. And that's what we were able to do with VMware. So with this, Julio, I just wanted him to talk about some of the things that he was able to accomplish with the engagement, and then we can close it out.
Thank you, Eduardo. So again, we started with a very clear objective that we discussed in the past, so we know what were our challenges. I mean, we were going through them, so basically we had the idea. So here just wanted to highlight some of the initial objectives or the accomplishment that we were able to achieve. But before going into this detail, a key story about that is like, for example, this was the foundation for our cloud migration. So while working on this program with Oxys, we also started the journey about migrating all our on-premises environment to the cloud. And this was the key foundation for that, because this allows us, during the migration, being able to test existing code, right? So we had a lot of solutions that you saw, more than 400, that at some point were not even tested because we didn't have that capability before. So now that we have to retouch, remove those codes, this is the key part that helps us really validate those projects, and before they get into production on Cloud Orchestrator, they were finally validated, tested. So with that one, we were able to get like the 100% code review. So now even through test automation that we have or through workflow analyzer, we finally are able to ensure that all codes are reviewed and they are qualified and they are measured before they get to the orchestrator. Second, we achieved 96% error reduction. So again, before that, even though it was a policy for our developers to do review, to do testing, to do QA, some of them, because of the hurry or because of the flexibility that business need, have to go directly to production. So basically, what we started to see is a lot of them failing exactly in production at the time of execution, which really put a lot of pressure into our support team. They were our customer-facing, internal customer-facing the department, so they have to constantly explain why it's something that was tested or UAT or smoke test like a few weeks ago is now not working. And finally, even though it's a conservative number, we were able to achieve 15% increase in speed. So now from the beginning of the development program up to when the project is up into production in Cloud Orchestrator, we're seeing a 50% improvement, something that we're definitely looking forward to improve more. But again, it's already a gain on how quickly we're able to react over those changes. Then we also have some other intangible objectives that we were able to achieve, like for example, as Eduardo was saying, the part of the awareness. Being aware of what is happening in your environment, being able to tell your customers, hey, we know something broke, we're already working on it, or it's already fixed, instead of just waiting for them to tell you, hey, what is my report? I was expecting that an hour ago, a day ago, or whatever. Now we're able to, again, gain their trust by saying, hey, we are aware that something breaks, so we're trying to fix it, or we already fix it. The continuous on-demand and proactively identify potential issues, constantly monitoring the IT development environments really help us to be aware of, something is coming down the road. A change that we were not communicated before is about to happen in production because they already are testing that in lower environments. And again, the proactive maintenance, so we constantly work on that and increasing quality that we perceive. Now, what's next after, we did this, basically this, as I said, is an enabler. This really helped us to now start investing in other capabilities, other functionalities from UiPath's perspective that is going to help us get to the next level. But again, once we gain that trust from our customers, it's now easier to go through these other issues or through other capabilities. For example, so now working again more into the communication part, the awareness part with our customers using insights and remote debugging. Also working on AI Center and actions definitely help you, again, once again, now that we are able to do more end-to-end automations or end-to-end testing, so we are now able to start working on things that are more complex, adding artificial intelligence, machine learning into the projects help us to get to that level of sophistication. And then for future, we're definitely, start to explore on the apps and the task mining. Finally, being able to move from on-premise to cloud help us, again, to start using most of these new features capability that UiPath is putting first on cloud, which normally take longer to get into on-premise. All right, and that will be basically what we have achieved through test automation. Thank you very much.